Why am I always tired as a parent? Christi, could you please tell me why you're always tired as a parent?
Here's the trouble. There is so much mental load that, especially for a mother, the mental load that a mother carries, you are always have your fingers on the pulse of every member of your family. So every child, your spouse, you're trying to manage not just the details, the transactional stuff of life, but also the emotional stuff of life. What child is maybe feels like they're just struggling a little bit. They need a little more time. It's not just physical exhaustion. We've been there, in those early childhood years where you're physically exhausted because you're not sleeping. Adding the emotional and the mental load, it's a lot to carry.
Yeah, and I would say too, even, as you're trying to manage your work life, you're trying to manage your home life, you're trying to really find what are, a lot of people will say work-life balance. I think rhythms is a better term for that. And so I just really want to put this out there. It is tiring. It is exhausting. It is a calling. It is important that we pay attention to that, but that we don't take that out on our kids, that we find ways, and that we don't take that out on each other, that we find ways in our tiredness to get rest, because we were not designed to live from exhaustion, but we were designed to live from rest, not for rest. And so I think it really starts with what is a rhythm that we can implement. And I want to encourage you, if you've read your Bible in the past and you've heard this thing called Sabbath, start with Sabbath. Start with one day a week that your family just rests. You choose a day of the week that you just rest. And that's what we implemented in our home that has really helped us, that one day a week, our kids are excited about it. They look forward to it. Yeah. We look forward to it, where we just put things aside. It's not that you're just laying on the couch and you're vegging and you're not doing anything. No, we're doing things that bring our souls life. It might be woodworking for me. It might be gardening for Christi. It's not that you're not doing things, but you're doing things that are out of the norm that bring your soul rest. That's where we would encourage you to be as a parent, as you raise your children, so that your children also learn what it looks like to live from rest and not for it.
Well, I think it's modeling for our kids too, that they're human beings, they're not human doings. How can I make my home safe for emotions?
Ooh, I got a really good one. So there's this really cool children's book. It's called What Am I Feeling? And in the back of it, there's a pull-out feelings chart, a poster that you can hang on your children's bedroom. We highly encourage you to check that out, because
we may have written it. It really is a great resource. And what's great about a feelings chart, if you've never seen one, it's just faces that mimic the emotion. And it starts to bring emotion language into your home. Most of us didn't grow up in a home where emotion was talked about. It was like, how was your day? Good, fine. What happened? It's very transactional. Talking about emotion means going one layer deeper, where we're actually talking about how it felt. I felt rejected at school today when the girls didn't let me sit at the table with them. I felt proud of myself when I got up and I spoke in front of my class. And the same is true for parents. They need to see us modeling emotion language, that we're talking about not just the things we did, but how it felt to us.
And I think that goes for the same for marriage then, as Christi's talking about, because we want to make sure that we're modeling. We keep talking about going back to modeling for our kids, modeling in our home what talking about emotions looks like. And so we do this thing called 15 minutes a day, where I will ask Christi, what was one positive feeling that you had today? What's one uncomfortable feeling that you're having? And it's just become normal. It's become normal emotional vocabulary in our home as an everyday process. But it might have to start with an exercise like this, where you're just, as Christi said, you're going a layer deeper with your spouse. And we encourage you to start neutral. You don't want to be blaming your spouse. Well, I felt angry today because you didn't take out the trash. No, I felt rejected today when I didn't get, accepted for this job, or whatever it was. Yeah. You're using language that's in neutral moments, so that it just gives a peek and insight for your spouse into your inner world. But then also too, you may even be verbalizing for the very first time what it is that you're feeling and what you're noticing about your day today. And it really begins there. That's how we start to make emotional vocabulary and emotions normal in the home. How can I calm my child? So here's one thing that I think is really, really important, because amygdala, which is the bottom part of the brain where the brain meets the brainstem. That's our fight, flight, or freeze response. And when our children are overwhelmed, when they're emotionally overwhelmed, a lot of times it comes out in behavior. And so it shows up as disobedience, it shows up as disrespect. But the reality is just like with us as adults, there's usually something deeper going on within your child that is causing them to act out the way that they are. And in that moment, that is not the moment to be disciplining or to be lecturing, is what I should say. Because if you're lecturing, it doesn't even go in one ear and out the other. It doesn't even go in the first ear to begin with. Because it's like for all of us, we're so emotionally overwhelmed that we can't even hear what's coming at us, or let alone process it and make sense of it. And so a lot of times what we would say, even in their disobedience, this is gonna sound crazy to some of you, is, especially if they're younger, is just simply hold your children. Physically hold them in their overwhelm. Allow them to have their brain calm down to a place where then you can have conversation with them. You can talk about correction. You can talk about their disobedience, and you can correct the behavior, but they're not gonna listen when they're emotionally overwhelmed.
When that part of the brain goes off, it's because it's a signal of threat. So something in the environment, something has happened that has threatened them in some way, which means they're afraid. So they're acting out of their fear, which means we need to come in with safety, meaning that I get to be the one that's just bigger, that's just like, bud. And here's another really great tip. Get their attention elsewhere. So whatever it is that's feeling so overwhelming, if we can get their attention elsewhere, asking them something about what they see, it basically tricks the brain into realizing, oh, I'm not dying in this moment. Whatever that threat was, it's not gonna take me out, and mom's here with me. And so it's really powerful if we actually get to understand and get beyond what the behavior looks like, because nobody likes when a kid's flipping their lid. I don't like when I flip my lid, but I don't need someone to come in and discipline me out of it. I need someone to come in and give me safety.
It's never worked as her husband.
Never.
These have been some really great questions,
Yeah.
but as parents, I also know that there's probably more questions that you have. They tend to snowball into other issues that we are struggling with and challenges that we have in our home. So what we would love for you to do is check out the description, check out all the links in there, because they will link to other topics that I'm sure that you're wrestling with. And for more content related to Famous at Home, you can also check out the Famous at Home book. There's so much more content within there that we obviously didn't get to discuss in this video, but you can access through the book.
Thanks for watching.